NASA's press office just made a statement that will leave no one indifferent. The scientific community is in shock. The James Webb Space Telescope, recently commissioned to study the most distant reaches of the universe, has detected an anomaly so inexplicable that the entire world is now awaiting an answer to the question. What was it? The tablets of space are beginning to crack. The signal received at the moment of closest approach to Mars revealed something scientists cannot explain. This wasn't an ordinary signal, as we'd usually think. It was an ominous and mysterious signal, one that immediately changed the entire course of the investigation. But its source, that's the rub. Data transmission from the telescope was immediately halted when NASA's technical department detected a break in the communications chain. Strange noises amidst the radioactive disturbances became an alarm signal for the entire international scientific community. Panic ensued. Emergency procedures were immediately launched to determine what exactly was happening when the connection was lost. Within minutes, while scientists in laboratories around the world were trying to re-establish normal contact with the telescope, another sensation shocked them. They discovered that one of Mars's magnetic fields had begun to change. And this was no accident. At first, it seemed like a simple technical error, a flaw in the instruments that could soon be corrected. However, when specialists attempted to retrace the signal's source, they discovered that the telescope's data completely disagreed with established theoretical models. Each new result challenged everything we knew about space. NASA Mission Control began issuing emergency calls to international agencies. The situation was not publicly disclosed, but the first leaks from classified channels revealed terrifying facts to the world. Someone may have seen what the telescope recorded. The camera managed to capture something strange against the backdrop of the moon, but then disappeared again. The time came when reports of strange shapes in the images began to come in. At first, they seemed like simple anomalies or surface imperfections, but when specialists tried to analyze the images didn't add up. They discovered unusual shadows and silhouettes resembling some unidentified structures. The authorities' reaction was immediate, but unclear. NASA's press service tried to reassure the public that it was just an accident. But the underlying anxiety grew. It all began to feel like a treacherous secret, hidden from public view. Experts spent hours discussing the possible causes of this mysterious phenomenon, but couldn't reach a consensus. Absorbed in their work in closed offices, they forgot that this data was now public knowledge, and multiple leaks cast doubt on their every move. And just when everyone seemed to have concluded that this was nothing more than a mistake, the unimaginable happened. A sharp and sudden change in Mars's orbit was detected by all international radars. It was impossible. All orbital information changed, as if the planet itself had shifted its trajectory. This event challenged all physical laws. Scientists' meetings and emergency conferences continued throughout the night. All this time, the phone lines remained silent, but the crucial moment was drawing ever closer. And when the telescope re-established contact, the data showed that the strange object had begun moving toward Earth. This was no random cosmic phenomenon. It wasn't an asteroid or a meteorite, but what followed turned our entire understanding of reality upside down. As the initial shock subsided and scientists tried to comprehend what was happening, the world suddenly found itself on the brink of an unimaginable discovery. All the clues that had seemed obvious and logical began to crumble. As soon as the leak of information about the incident from NASA Mission Control reached global news outlets, new details began to emerge. This wasn't just a random glitch in the system. No, there was a mystery here that even the most experienced specialists couldn't explain. It seemed the signal recorded by the James Webb Space Telescope was far more than a mere anomaly. Its origin was strange not only in its frequency, but also in its mathematical properties. The signal's strange structure, a repeating sequence of numbers initially perceived as random, caught their attention. But when it repeated itself again and again, the researchers began to realize it might be a signal with a meaningful message. Each subsequent study only reinforced this perception. The scientists' concern grew with each passing minute as the data didn't fit with the theories they were familiar with. Anomalies recorded in the images further exacerbated the situation. In the photographs taken by the telescope, unknown silhouettes began to move. From the moment the signal appeared until it disappeared, the object changed its position in the sky. It didn't move as a space object should. It looked like a maneuver coordinated by someone or something. But the real revelation came when the nature of what was happening to Mars's orbit became clear. It turned out that the changes that had been recorded could not be explained by either gravitational fluctuations or catastrophes. It was as if Mars had begun moving along a path that had not been included in the calculations. Even more alarming, the planet's trajectory clearly showed signs of external influence. Data began pouring in not only from the telescope, but also from other scientific instruments installed on orbital stations. Each new report only added fuel to the fire. Were these mere coincidences, or was the world on the brink of a discovery that could change all known laws of physics? Moreover, scientists realized that not everything in this data made sense. Some recordings that should have been visible on screens had vanished without a trace, and internal NASA documents containing a detailed analysis of the signal were leaked to the press. Experts in one article claimed that the signal might not have been random. It resembled not just a sequence of numbers, but rather a message with a clear structure from which some hidden meaning could be extracted. Meanwhile, numerous theories have surfaced online. Some said it was a signal from an alien civilization. Others claimed it was something created by artificial intelligence that had somehow penetrated space beyond Earth's orbit and begun transmitting messages. But no one could understand why now or what it meant. The secrecy surrounding the incident intensified. Scientists attempting to explain the incident found themselves completely blocked from accessing the data they needed. It soon became known that parts of the NASA archive had been deleted. Some witnesses who witnessed this data began to disappear. Official statements remained fragmented, and the press service attempted to minimize attention to the incident. But the resulting information fire proved far more powerful. By this time, public opinion was divided. Some believed these were simply high-tech system glitches. Others believed we were facing something far more dangerous and important. But scientists realized it wasn't a mistake. Something had actually happened. And just as everyone was preparing for an official explanation of what had happened, the next step in this mysterious story occurred. The signal coming from the depths of space began repeating itself. It resembled a coded message, and from time to time it seemed to become increasingly clear. And when scientists took the final step and attempted to respond to this signal, everything changed. As authorities began to analyze the entire volume of incoming data, the scientific world found itself on the brink of disaster. Scientists, even the most experienced and recognized experts, began to doubt their understanding of reality. This wasn't just an anomaly. It was something far more disturbing. And with each new piece of evidence, more and more people began to question the same thing. What if we're not alone in the universe? Elon Musk, who has been focusing on space exploration in recent years, was the first prominent figure to publicly address this issue. During a closed interview, he stated, "We're facing something that can't be explained. It's more than just a scientific fact. This is a phenomenon that goes beyond everything we knew about physics." Musk has always been a man striving for revolution, and his words undoubtedly shocked the world. He emphasized that this was no accident. According to him, the James Webb Space Telescope has detected an object that defies all known laws of gravity and physics. Perhaps it's not just a celestial body. Perhaps it's something created by intelligence. And if so, this could be the beginning of a new phase in human history, Musk said in an interview that soon went viral. However, Musk wasn't alone in believing we were facing something entirely new and unexplored. Michio Kaku, a leading astrophysicist known for his research into string theory and numerous predictions in quantum physics, also expressed his concerns. This event calls into question our entire scientific picture of the world. What the telescope recorded cannot be explained from the perspective of traditional science. We must prepare for the possibility that all the foundations on which physics is built may be re-examined. His words were met with both respect and alarm. While some supported the theory of a possible encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence, others began to suspect that science was simply unable to comprehend what was happening. After all, when even the world's greatest minds are horrified by what they see, it feels as if reality is beginning to crumble before our eyes. But it was then that a leak that soon appeared online revealed that NASA had an unofficial report stating that telescope observations were detecting repeating signals that couldn't be explained by any known natural phenomena. Experts began to consider the possibility that this might not just be an unimaginable anomaly, but something behaving purposefully. Consider, what if this signal wasn't a random occurrence? What if it wasn't just cosmic gas molecules, but a deliberate message? From numerous recordings and satellite images, one thing was clear. The detected anomaly clearly showed signs of purposeful action, as if some object, or even an entire civilization, was attempting to establish contact. It's like a message. We don't understand it, but it's clearly sent with intent, stated one leading astronomer involved in the analysis. Although her opinion hasn't been officially confirmed, it has sparked a new wave of rumors and theories. Why have we fallen victim to silence and secrecy? Why is such important data being hidden from the public? One of the most shocking discoveries was that the James Webb Space Telescope detected not just anomalies in the object's trajectories, but also strange objects that could be described as stationary. These shapes resembled something familiar, yet at the same time completely alien to everything we knew. In the images obtained by the telescope, silhouettes resembling enormous cosmic structures could be seen. Perhaps these were gigantic constructions. However, what they actually were remained unknown. And despite all the hype surrounding the incident, no answers were forthcoming. All theories that could explain what was happening grew increasingly bizarre. At one point, rumors began to circulate that important files and reports from NASA had been deleted. At first, it seemed like a simple leak, but it was later confirmed. NASA's security systems blocked access to critical information. And all this happened at a time when the world was on the brink of discovering the true nature of these anomalies. By the time the latest report became publicly available, it had become clear. The signal we received wasn't behaving like a random cosmic phenomenon. It clearly had a structure, was repeating, and was changing depending on external factors. It seemed deliberate. It could have been a message. But the real story happened when the scientists took a risky step. They sent a response. But here's what happened when the scientists tried to send a response. Everything changed. When NASA scientists decided to send a response, they couldn't predict what would happen next. All they knew was that the signal received by the James Webb Space Telescope wasn't random. Every piece of data, every fragment of the transmitted signal, indicated that it came from some intelligent source. But what was the source? Who was behind this message, which violated all known scientific rules? The process of preparing to send the signal was a true test. Numerous experts worked around the clock, checking every aspect to ensure their message would not be perceived as aggression, but rather would pave the way for mutual understanding. The signal was carefully encrypted to convey our intention, our friendliness, as accurately as possible. The horror was that no one knew who they would be dealing with. And then, the moment the scientists sent the signal, something incredible happened. At first, only silence. Then came strange sounds, like a hissing. It was like a low-frequency howl that vibrated the very structure of their instruments. The scientists cringed in their chairs, realizing they had just activated something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. They heard strange, inexplicable sounds in their ears. Then came the signal again. But this time, it was different from the previous one. It was a voice, an unknown language, defying all known patterns, yet nevertheless sounding like a call. There were pauses in every phrase. Something was listening to them. At some point, when the tension reached its peak, words came through the speakers. They were clear, in a language no one could understand. We will return. That very moment, when the human mind encountered something absolutely incomprehensible. Scientists couldn't believe their ears. But this wasn't an ordinary radio transmitter. This wasn't just cosmic noise. This was something deeper. And it responded. No one could imagine what would happen next. Scientists quickly began analyzing, but their research only led to greater confusion. The answer was too clear, too meaningful to be a coincidence. What was it? Who said it? And then a strange series of events began. Shortly after receiving the signal, important data began to disappear. The first time scientists tried to review NASA archives, they discovered that documents and even images related to the incident had been deleted. Furthermore, several witnesses had disappeared. Meanwhile, reports began to come in that people who had worked with the data were now impossible to find. Were these coincidences? Why were all the archives related to this research so suddenly erased? Why was there no consensus among the public? Fear and uncertainty filled the air. Meanwhile, the media began drawing conclusions based only on partial data. Some claimed that these signals could be coming from an alien civilization. Others suggested it might be a project using a new supercomputer, perhaps creating an artificial intelligence capable of generating such messages. But none of these hypotheses explained why the signal was so specific, or why it began to respond to our response. And so, just when the scientific community had more questions than answers, NASA issued an emergency statement. All further attempts to send a signal into space were suspended, and soon it was announced that all work related to research into this phenomenon would be temporarily suspended. This was no easy decision. It was a warning. But what happened when the scientists tried to send another response? Why did their actions cause such a stir? When the efforts to establish contact ceased, an even more disturbing thought arose. What if we were never meant to receive this response? What if this connection wasn't intended for us? With each new step, the mystery deepened, and the question itself became more and more unexplored. Were we really ready for this? Or is this the beginning of something far more terrifying? When NASA officially ceased all observations, the world froze in anticipation. But there was one thing. Communications have now been restored. But that signal is still coming, and no one knows who it's for. Several months have passed since the last signal was detected by the James Webb Space Telescope. Time brought no answers. Quite the contrary. The mystery only deepened. Everything we knew about the cosmos, its mysteries and laws, was called into question. Humanity found itself on the brink of confronting something far more significant and dangerous than we could ever have imagined. Now that the world has become accustomed to the idea that we may not be alone in the universe, new alarming facts are emerging. Scientists who once claimed that our species was not in any danger are now silent. Telescopes and other scientific instruments monitoring this anomaly are no longer responding. There are no more new signals coming in, at least none that we can perceive. But that doesn't mean we have all the answers. Believe it or not, the very fact that the signal is still coming is alarming. It's as if he's stuck in space, not disappearing, but also finding no answer. It feels like something's waiting, something's watching. The telescopes are working again, but the world can no longer ignore what we've learned. Perhaps we're unprepared for what lurks beyond our reality. What if this isn't just contact? What if this is a test, a trial of humanity, and we might not be able to withstand what the future holds? In recent weeks, new information has emerged, based on data carefully hidden in NASA's classified archives. The leaked data revealed that attempts were made to respond to signals at several different points in the universe. However, not everything we said received the same response as it had in the first few sessions. Responses began to arrive out of the order we expected. It felt more like not just contact, but as if someone or something was deliberately ignoring our efforts. And now, when the moment of truth has arrived, when the signal we sent has become not just a delayed response, but direct confirmation that we have become part of an unknown game, the question arises: are we ready for what lies ahead? As research projects are shut down and further telescopic observations are blocked, theories have flared up around the world. Some scientists claim that this signal may not simply be a message from an alien civilization, but perhaps something even more unimaginably dangerous. Perhaps the signal was precisely what we perceived as a call, but in reality it could have been a test. We're playing someone else's game, not knowing who the players are. There hasn't been a single answer that could pinpoint these forces. Some claim it could be an artificial intelligence that, while outside Earth, has tracked and begun responding to our activity. which makes the whole picture even more confusing. If this is true, we stand on the threshold of a new era, an era in which we may be not just observers, but also test subjects. Communication has now been restored, but its continued existence remains unknown. Someone is watching us. That's a fact that can't be denied, but who is it, and what could they want from humanity? What's most disturbing is that the signal we received wasn't simple. And if this signal was sent to make us understand something, then perhaps we've begun searching for answers too late. We stand before the unknown, poised to uncover one of humanity's most dangerous mysteries. But what if the true threat isn't what we're looking for, but what we don't know? Perhaps this isn't the first signal, perhaps it won't be the last. What if they've been watching us all this time? And while we're not ready to accept that we're not alone in this universe, someone or something is waiting, preparing. And it's unclear who will actually be next. For now, the signal continues to transmit. But who he is and who he's destined for, only time will be able to answer that question. Or perhaps we'll never know.